This is Horror Podcast.
Welcome to This is Horror, a podcast for readers, writers, and creators. I'm Michael David Wilson, and every episode alongside my co-host Bob Pastorella, we chat with the world's best writers about writing, life lessons, creativity, and much more. Today we are chatting to Gabino Iglesias for the first time in almost 7 years. Now, Gabino is the author of so many brilliant horror and crime books, including The Devil Takes You Home, House of Bone and Rain, Coyote Songs, and Zero Saints. And in addition to the audio, there will also very soon be a video version of this conversation. So if you haven't already, do subscribe over on YouTube, youtube.com/@thisishorrorpodcast. Okay, before I get into the conversation, a quick advert break.
It was as if the video had unzipped my skin, slunk inside my tapered flesh, and become one with me.
From the creator of This Is Horror comes a new nightmare for the digital age, The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. After a teacher receives a weirdly arousing video, his life descends into paranoia and obsession. More videos follow, each containing information no stranger could possibly know. But who's sending them, and what do they want? The answers may destroy everything and everyone he loves. The Girl in the Video is The Ring meets Fatal Attraction for the iPhone generation. Available now in paperback, ebook, and audio. From the host of This Is Horror Podcast comes a dark thriller of obsession, paranoia, and voyeurism. After relocating to a small coastal town, Brian discovers a hole that gazes into his neighbor's bedroom. Every night she dances and he peeps. Same song, same time, same wild and mesmerizing dance. But soon Brian suspects he's not the only one watching, and she's not the only one being watched. Their watching is The Wicker Man meets Body Double with a splash of Suspiria. They're Watching by Michael David Wilson and Bob Pastorella is available from thisishorror.co.uk, Amazon, and wherever good books are sold.
All right, here it is. It is Gabino Iglesias on This Is Horror. Gabino, welcome back to This Is Horror.
Thank you for having me again. It's been way too long.
It has been over 6 years, so in a way it feels almost disingenuous to say welcome back as if, I was talking to you a few minutes ago or even last year, but yeah, 6.
We're not the same people, so it's it's good to be back and to see both of you again.
Yeah, and I mean, normally I would ask, what have been the biggest changes for you personally and professionally since we last spoke? But where do we even begin with that?
I stuck with the writing thing, and it sort of started working out, that's good. So oh wow, 6 years. That's half a dozen. I want a stoker, like in the process of this whole thing working out. I want a stoker, and was nominated to other things that sell your rights almost immediately in other countries. So you take that amazing foreign money, and that helps the whole thing work out, because you get paid for things, and getting paid is absolutely fantastic. Nothing else has changed because I still haven't figured out exactly what I'm doing. So all the other parts are still the same. I'm just not 6 years. High school teacher, probably at the time we last spoke. Yeah. So I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah, and I know now that you're working with Mulholland Books, so let's talk about how did that come about?
I was had a Zero Saints and Coyote songs were out, and I was constantly trying to get those everywhere. Both of you are very well acquainted with indie publishing. There's a lot of limitations in terms of like what you can do with marketing and who will carry your books and who won't. That I'm not going to say 6 years, but in the last 8 to 10, that has changed a lot. Um, so I started when that wasn't part of the indie scene. So I was trying to, what's the next step? And then, yeah, I wrote The Devil Takes You Home probably a year before the pandemic. Then I got fired. So I pretended that I was a full time writer, um, and finished Devil Takes You Home. And that landed me an agent. And that is, I know it sounds like a cliche, but if you do the exact same thing for a very long time and it works out, if you can add the right agent, you don't have to. It wasn't you. All those years that you were struggling, it wasn't you. You just needed this one person that can work some kind of literary miracle, and that's what happened. So she got me a 2 book deal, and off to the races. And now I'm lighting candles so that she likes the next one, and then that she can also sell it so that we both get paid. So that's, yeah, that about sums it up.
Yeah, and I think there are a lot of people who are listening who are looking to get an agent and are seeing that as the next step on their journey. So then I wonder with you specifically what that process looked like and then how you decided to go with the agent that you ultimately went with.
So I should start that story. 2008 to about 2010, I spent those 2 years just trying to get an agent, and maybe got 300, 400 rejections, or ignored emails, or sometimes you would get like a partial request or a full request, and that went nowhere, even though those things get you very excited. um, Hindsight is 2020. Obviously the writing, it was not the strongest. It wasn't a wonderful, amazing novel that truly deserved to see the light of day. It was me trying to write my first novel in English, and trying to switch languages while merging horror and crime, and it was 120,000 words, and it was a mess. So I didn't get an agent, and I did start a career without an agent. Um, if you're struggling and you feel like the indie scene is for you now, um, I don't recommend trying to see it as a platform. I'm just saying that for a lot of us, that's just the way that things panned out. So you can spend a bunch of years as an indie, and then you get the break that you were waiting for, or whatever you want to call it. In my case, it was relatively easy. The second time around, because I already had a career, I had 3, 4 books out. Coyote Songs had like a Stoker nomination, so it was on a couple of radars. He won the Wonderland Book Award, so that was like, oh, you get free publicity. Like you don't get paid for winning awards, but people talk about the book. So yeah, this agent reached out, and I said, I have a thing if you're willing to wait. So the first time was 2 years of rejection, and the second time was basically fate knocking at the door and asking to see what I was working on. And she told me to change absolutely nothing, and that was like, I didn't need to see anything else. It was like, you see what I'm trying to do, and you don't have a problem with it, with the violence or the politics or the Spanglish or the gay characters, and like, none of that. You're on board. Yes, okay, fantastic. That's all I need. Let's work together. So just stick with it.
Yeah, I recall in a previous interview, I mean, when you talk about all of the elements such as the Spanglish and the gay characters, that you said, you kind of have embraced in a way some of the Lovecraft references, but then what you're doing is making it uniquely your own by throwing in all the things that Lovecraft would have absolutely hated. So you're kind of taking it back, as it were.
It's if you're American, you can be the most amazing, liberal, loving person who works with children, and feeds the poor. There might be a lot of dark stuff in your DNA. So if you start going back, don't go back one or two generations. Go back 3, 4, 5, 6 generations. You might find some dark stuff in there. Um, it's exactly the same when you're writing. It's this weird process where the stuff that you've read is part of you. So when I was 12, I didn't know Lovecraft was like a horrible racist. I didn't know the name of his cat. I didn't know anything about anti-Semitism. I didn't know any of that. I just knew monsters and the way that it made me feel, and learning all this pronunciations of words that I'd never read before. So it's part of my DNA. But then you grow up and you learn, what that means. So you either try to hide it and don't talk about it, or oh, he's problematic, or you accept it. He's part of horror's DNA, the same way that Clive Barker is, whether you like his work or not, or Stephen King, whether you like his work or not, they're part of our DNA. So it was like, if I'm going to be using some of that stuff anyway, I might as well go hard on making him, do turns in his grave. So I'm going to fill it with all the people that he would have hated. And that's sort of we'll celebrate your legacy while also pissing in your grave sort of combination that I think works.
Yeah, I think there's a number of people who kind of deserve that reaction,
Yeah.
as it were. And, I mean, sometimes we say people are complicated, but H.P. Lovecraft is another level that is beyond complication.
It's and I get all the excuses. It was a different time and he didn't know any better. But there were other people who were alive at the same time who didn't have the same thoughts. So it's never an excuse. But he's dead and buried, so we can't slap him around now. So we insult him by using his work in the best way possible.
Yeah, and when people say it was a different time, I mean, historians have said yes, but H.P. Lovecraft was not good for his time. So it was a different time, but he took it, to the next level with his. I mean, who decides to call their cat that? I mean,
A
an
very,
absolute
very
racist is
specific
probably the
person.
answer, but
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, a bad person.
yeah. But in terms of your journey with the agent, I mean, I think it's a very optimistic story. I think it's one that kind of goes to show that, look, if you just keep working hard, if you keep putting in the hustle, if you keep
Yeah.
showing up at the keyboard, you get the words down. I mean, that's what you have to do. There are no guarantees whether we will make it or not with writing, whatever that even means. But,
Yeah.
the nearest way to guarantee or to enhance your chances is to just keep putting the work in. So, I mean, I think there are a number of people who they're just writing and they're waiting for somebody to pick them, but we need to pick ourselves. So if you can't land the agent, you put your work out another
Yeah.
way. And I mean, it's not just happened for you, but this seems to be the journey that a lot of people have taken. If I think of Eric LaRocca and Gemma Moore, they put their work out there in a more kind of independent mode.
Yeah.
And then the bigger publishers discovered them when they'd already been discovered, when they were already proven, as it were.
Yes. Yeah. It's a conversation that I like to have because I think it gets very murky because I heard when I started, I heard a lot of the only thing that matters is the art. So you write the best that you can, and then you let the audience find you. And I was like, all right, that sounds awesome from an artistic viewpoint. You just focus on the art. And then you realize that if you're going to get involved in publishing, that's not art, that's a business. So there's marketing involved. And it's like, all right, I did the art part, but now I want to share it. How do I go about doing that? And people still tell you like, no, keep focusing on the art, and then your audience will find you. No, do what Eric did. Just be as loud as possible and get those fantastic covers. If you go that route, just be as loud as possible. Everyone is screaming into the void. So how are you going to make that scream of yours special? So figure out what works for you. But yeah, it's don't be quiet. Don't wait for the audience to come to you, because you can live 10 lives as an author and not gain 10 readers if you don't talk about your work.
It's the same for any type of artist. Like, prime example, everybody knows me as a writer. I can draw. I don't draw that much because drawing is painful for me. I have carpal tunnel, and so it's hard to be able to try to finish a project, because you get in, like in writing, you get in the zone, and you get to the point to where you can't even physically hold the pen or pencil that you're working with to draw. And so it's very frustrating to have to put work aside. Those binders that I have with with my drawings and everything that I have never finished or anything like that. Let's say they're finished. If I don't put them out there, no one fucking knows about them. So it's like the same thing. If I want to sell those drawings, I have to get loud about it. I have to put it out there. The art. If you do the art, they're not going to come to you. You have to business it. Sorry, it's just you have to. Whatever level that works for you, you're going to have to figure it out. And for some people who, especially the more that you want, you need someone who knows the business better than you do.
Yes.
But, shoot, dude, get your stuff out there. Get it out there. It ain't going nowhere in the closet. And it's just not going to sit. It's going to sit there.
Preach.
Yeah, well, we've spoken to writers who kind of have all sorts of different breakups in terms of the, I suppose, percentage of writing versus promoting. There are people like Jason Pargin who it's way on the promotion side in terms of how he divides his time. You've got others like the British author David Moody, where it's much more the writing. So I'm wondering, what does your balance look like in terms of marketing and writing? Is it even something you're conscious of? And it might be worth noting too that, the social media landscape has shifted dramatically since Elon Musk bought Twitter, or essentially messed it up. So how has that affected things for you?
It's when you said changing, yes. I've been there for the whole gauntlet. In some cases, it's getting a little better. I like Blue Sky a little bit. In other instances, it has just gotten worse and continues to get worse. And every time that I learn anything new about a new platform, it's usually Nazi related. Like they're allowed to, carry Nazi content, or so it's like I always feel like I'm running to catch up to know what's going on, and how is the world of social media horrible in a different way today. But I many years ago, when I was starting out, I decided I cannot look at this. You literally acquire a new job that you didn't apply for. You apply to the writer gig, and then they're like, oh, you're now a public speaker. You're now a person who, if more than 50 people read your book in a community, you're going to end up writing a blurb for someone. So you have to read the whole book, and you're going to have to do this other thing, and you're going to have to do interviews. And if it works out, you're going to do podcasts. So those 2 hours you were going to write or rest, you're not doing that. You're doing the writer thing. And you're like, but the writing thing was just me writing. That did not involve like traveling or not being able to write. So that was the mental thing. If you allow marketing to become so huge, it cuts into your writing time. So you change gigs without even knowing it. So I made it part of my life, just fun. Like we're gonna do Friday reads every Friday. That's a lot of fun. I find a lot of new books to me every single Friday, which is fantastic. I might speak about something that reminded me of a story from Serial Saints or Coyote Songs to sell those reissues. But I'm not. I'm constantly thinking about how can I do more for the books, but I'm not constantly on social media talking about the books because that's an easy way of just breaking connections with people because you're not a person anymore. You're just here's the Amazon link. Here's the Amazon link. I'm not going to reply to your questions. I'm not going to tell you a joke. I'm not going to comment on the news or politics. But guess what? Here's an Amazon link to my book, and I don't want to do that. I think that's it's horrible when I see accounts that do that. It's just like it's not a human. I feel like it's another crypto bot slash book marketer on social media. Just here's the link again and again 4 times per day, and I don't want to do that ever if I can fight it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, even the last time we spoke with you, one of the things that you were doing that, of course, other people do, but perhaps not to the level, is just promoting other people's stuff,
Yeah.
relentlessly and being like, what have you got? Let me signal boost it. I mean, that is kind of raising all ships, as it were. You've built up this pretty big audience, and then you're like, well, let me help you out. What have you got?
It's any time as an author that you get invited to an event, getting that invitation that's the goal. Someone contacted you because you wrote this thing or because they know your work. That's it. That was your job. Someone contacted you because of your writing. You're gonna go to a place, um, or you're gonna do an interview, and you're gonna mention your books, and the host or the person who brings you, or the university who brings you, or the bookshop who brings you, are gonna have your books out. Like that's it. That's the job. You're done. The rest of the time, sure, talk about your book, but maybe you write a book. In my case, it might take a year and a half, sometimes 2 years. How many other books am I enjoying in those 2 years? I'm not going to constantly talk about my crap. Let me tell you about the stuff that I'm loving right now. Let me tell you about the most amazing book that got me out of a writing slump. It's not even just like remember to plug everybody else. It's just, I think it should be just a normal part of your conversation. Like, hey, we're here to talk books, right? Check out this books. And then you start, like we've already done like Eric LaRocca, Haley Piper, yada, yada. So you keep adding names and it's like, it's my community is what I love. Let me talk. Yeah, we'll mention my books later, but have you read about? And then you're like, oh man, the new novel, Stephen Graham Jones. And then you're like, of course. I mean, Stephen doesn't count as someone who might need our help, but you still talk about him, right? So it's all good. It's about talking about the stuff that you love.
It's just funny because every time I bring up, like, I'm telling friends and coworkers and stuff, they found out, that I write and I read and things like that. And then I find out they read horror, and I'll bring up somebody like Stephen Graham Jones. They go, yeah, that new guy. Yeah. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no,
totally new.
no,
Yeah,
he's already written 2 books while you said that. He's pretty
yes,
prolific.
yes.
The publisher has slowed him down, but he still writes.
Oh yeah.
But the whole signal boost thing is that I tend to follow people on social media who do a lot of signal boosting. It's easy. That's an easy follow. It's like, I like what you're doing. You're not boosting yourself. You're boosting other people. You're boosting other people's art. Like great example is Trevor Henderson. If he likes it, if he thinks it's cool, fuck, he's all over it. He's going to tell you, hey, this shit is fucking cool. You need to check it out. This is the new book I read. This is a new movie I saw. I do that, and I don't expect anything in return, because if I think it's cool, then I think other people too. And sometimes I get really, really excited. And sometimes I get not so excited, like Ice Cube doing a War of the Worlds movie, but with like, we really fucking need that. But, it's like, so I'm like, I might complain about things, but it's that you've got to get other voices out there, and if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm going to do it so they'll quote me and they'll post about me. No, it don't work that way, man. You cannot expect. You should only just do, and you should do it because you think their shit's cool. That's the only reason. It's just, I think this is fucking badass.
And I think I'm a music fan, and I think the horror community is like the music community, in the sense that it's like, oh, if you dig this, and then it's like, it's constant. Like, oh, you read this author for the first time, you didn't know this kind of horror existed. Oh, you're getting into like liminal space stuff. Oh, come here. And then it's like you have a stash. No matter what people are getting into, you just want to share the goods, because then you're not forced to nerd out by yourself. Like, oh, did you read that part? So it should be part of the ecosystem. You should constantly be talking about, the stuff that you're consuming, and the movies that you're watching, and the, whatever's keeping you alive that week, because God knows we all need it. So share all the good stuff constantly.
Yes. I got into Charles Mingus because you posted about Charles Mingus.
Yeah.
And I was like, I go, who is that? I'm like, okay, jazz, I'm in. He plays bass. Oh, he's really, really good. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So I love that stuff, man. Keep it coming.
Is that him yelling? Yes, I like that. Yeah.
But I mean, to go to your writing routine, what does that look like now? And I mean, you said that you don't have a day job at the moment. So, I mean, the writing, it has become the day job. So how has that shifted since we last spoke?
So it's I still do teaching. I taught for a while at Southern New Hampshire University's online MFA. And then for 2 years, I've been teaching with Todd Goldberg at UCR's Palm Desert Low Residency MFA. And I think stuff that's low residency was just built for me. It doesn't even feel like work. I'm just at home, so I'll prioritize reading students, writing. Once that's done, the main change now has been, usually I can schedule my life so that between 10 or 11 a.m. and 2, 3 in the afternoon, it's just it's me and the dog. It's me and the dog and the music, and then that's it. I'm not gonna answer emails. I'm not gonna pick up my phone. I'm gonna ignore the news for a little bit. That allows me to have more time to write, which I thought was going to immediately translate into me writing more. It has so far translated into me struggling for longer to write probably the same amount of words that I was writing before, when I had to force myself to write at midnight or with one hand through my lunch. I do think the stuff is better now, because I spend the same amount of work, same amount of time to produce at the same pace, but I think the structures are a little bit more challenging, and it's, every book, as both of every book you write, you get just a little bit better. So the chaos and the relying on just like deadlines and adrenaline is not. And then I'm also doing the books for the New York Times, and I never stopped reviewing for Locus. So there are days where I'm just doing more reading than writing. So those days don't count. So it's still chaos. I just have a little bit more freedom with my time to maybe have lunch while in the midst of chaos and not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I can just relax and try to steer myself back on track.
Well, I did want to ask in terms of the New York Times gig that you now have where you're reviewing horror books, has that changed your reading habits at all? And how does that aspect fit into your life, knowing that you've got to produce this column on a regular basis?
It's the main thing that it's added, because I was reading like a maniac anyway. The main thing that it's added to my life that takes time is the first thing is selecting the books. It's every month. It's almost an impossible task. I'm not gonna say there's 250 amazing horror books coming every month, but there might be 150 books, out of which maybe 75 might bring the goods, and then there's like maybe 25 authors in there that you're like, wow, the last one was really good, so this one is probably really good, and I get to pick four. And you want to have stuff in there that's work in translation, and you want to have short story collections, and you want to have a few anthologies here and there, because it's just like, and then from time to time, if you're doing horror, you're gonna throw in one YA novel because there's YA horror and you have to cover it. That's the main thing, just like the mental space that occupies. And then you throw in, like, if there's a big book, a new Josh Malerman, I probably know that Josh is going to get his own review. Stephen King usually gets his own review. So you take those, but I still cover some very big names. So you struggle. Do I want to go big name and then try to find the smallest indie out of the bunch to sort of balance that? Because this is going to be a bestseller whether I review it or not. But for the indies, coverage might mean, little bump on the needle, and just the mental space that all that stuff occupies every month. And then at the end, I turn my columns in on the first of every month, and then writing it's about 2 days of just, I'm not doing absolutely anything else. I'm focusing on the column. I've been doing it almost 2 years, and it still feels daunting when I sit down and I'm like, I'm going to write a column for the fucking New York Times, and it better be good because my editor is fantastic and he catches everything. So this thing better be good. So that's about 2-3 days of my life that I don't do any other writing. I'm just working on the column. So it affects my life at the beginning of the month and the end, and in the middle, I read the exact same amount I was reading before. In fact, I was missing crime so much that I started a column at Crime Reads so I could talk about some of the crime that I was reading, while also reading horror for the New York Times. So always reading, always reading. That's why I'm always behind on movies. So it's
Yeah, there's so much that you've just said there that really resonates with my life and different aspects of it. I mean, I've done a lot of reviewing in my time. I don't review so much anymore, although just hearing you talk now, it's like, God, I should do more reviewing, because it's not just about me, but it's about bringing that kind of exposure to people that really need it. But when
But
I
you do
when
this.
I review, like the amount, what was that? Sorry.
You do this. This also accomplishes that. So you're good.
Okay, good, good. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't need to add more to, but I'm the type of person that me and Bob have had this conversation a lot. I'm always trying to add more. I'm always burning out. Yeah, there might be a pattern here. What's
Yeah,
going
it
on? But
is.
I mean, I would say whenever I was reviewing, like it took so much longer than it will for me to write my fiction, because if I'm going to review, I'm going to really do it a good service. And so that will probably mean reading the book multiple times, being really selective on each passage, and I don't know, the time constraint is why I don't do it as much. You know,
Yeah.
if I just kind of read a book for pleasure, then it's quicker. It's less pressure as well. I'm just enjoying the book for what it is. I'm not having to think about how I'm going to talk about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
See, I know exactly where Gabino's are coming from because with the exception of reading the book, because I do look out for, and so there are multiple sources I go to. I try to have a good at least a month and a half lead time, and I can't just go. Well, I mean, shit, I could just go to bestsellers and just see who's going to be doing a new book. Everybody's got something coming out, you know. I could do that, so I have to balance it, and I have to okay, I have to do an indie. Oh, look, there's a YA I'm really interested in this one, and then do the rare comic book because I think one, it's not getting enough attention. Two, people, I think it's cool, and three, I don't have to read the fucking thing. Now, I'm going to read it. I'm probably going to buy it. I'm probably the first one who's going to actually use my pre-order link to get it. You know, the link that I put in the lookout for column. But
Right.
I don't have time to review. I just don't. I got tired of trying to figure out different words for buy this book. I'm in the thesaurus going buy, okay, purchase.
Yeah.
No, that don't sound right. You know, because that's all I was doing. It's like this book's fucking badass. I don't want to spoil it. You should just buy it.
Yeah.
That was my review.
Exactly.
I'm done.
It's I always think it's how can I be a lot more eloquent to say, dude, check this shit out. It's like that sometimes that could be the column. It's like there's a fucking new Junji Ito. That's the review. I don't have to tell you why you should check out Junji's work, right? So it's like that's the whole review, but I can't get paid for that, and it doesn't sound smart. So I have to find new ways to tell you, you know, something's awesome without saying it 6 times in the column and just sounding like a surfer dude in a bad movie. That's does take time, but yeah. But then I'm not doing this because this is like set up, email, record, edit, upload. It's a job. You gave yourselves jobs.
Yeah, I mean, kind of this as horror podcast came about. Like a lot of things have come about in my life where I want to see something in the world. It wasn't there, and I thought, well, I'll create it. And here we are, 12 years and over 600 episodes later, and it's still going.
Yes.
But I mean, just to briefly go back to you mentioning Junji Ito, what a fantastic, crazy writer who I'm so glad to see that, like, in the last few years in particular, he's really just kind of escaped only being known in Japan, and like the whole Western world is picking up on his work. And I think there's like many factors that have come into it, but probably just adapting a number of them for Netflix certainly helped. But if people want to see, goodness, what's almost like the H.R. Geiger equivalent of a story, but through a Japanese weird fiction, almost bizarro lens,
Yes.
it's Junji Ito right there.
Yeah. Anything you're looking for, like weirdness or gore or a little bit of poetry or just fantastic art, it's all there. And yeah, for many years it was sort of halfway through the conversation about horror, someone might drop his name as a, you know, I don't read this kind of book, but I do know Uzumaki, and then that would get the conversation started. And now you get on TikTok, you know, Instagram, and it's like folks with the Junji Ito collection of hardbacks, and everybody's reading the new ones. So yeah, more power to him. He's a fantastic writer and artist. So everybody should go read Junji Ito right now if they haven't done so yet.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's good to see like so many Japanese writers. Oh, obviously I have a vested interest living in Japan, but there's so many I've noticed recently getting, more recognition. But the most absurd thing I saw was when I think Koji Suzuki was given a Lifetime Achievement Award for horror. The person who wrote The Ring and Darkwater. And there were some people who were saying, and we know the sort, they're like, oh, this is a diversity pick. Why did they put this obscure writer in? It's like, are you fucking kidding me? The Ring is the most famous
and anything you
fucking
don't
book
know
from Japan.
anything you don't know is very obscure to you. So it's it's I guess it applies. If you don't know it, it's very obscure. So it's very telling when you call certain things obscure.
Yeah. The word woke has been redefined because it used to mean enlightened, and now it seems to mean anything that I don't fucking like
Yeah,
is woke.
it's woke.
Ridiculous.
It's a virus. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate that word. I hate hearing it because I know where they're going with it when people say it, and I hear it at work.
Oh,
And being in Texas, this I had a customer the other day that and we have to help these people out. We don't have to listen to them though. And this guy, it's obviously with the tattoos and everything. You could tell where his allegiance was and everything. And one of our top salespeople was a big giant black man. He's great. He's who I go to for stuff. He's been doing it as long as me. So we put our heads together. We make things happen. And he called him Big Black. I said, well, he's got a name. It's Donald. And I'm sitting here trying to fix this guy's phone. This guy's he's like, oh, well, you one of them bleeding heart liberals? I'm like, no, I'm the guy who's fixing your phone that you could have done yourself. Yeah, and he was like, yeah, carry on, man.
yeah.
And
It's
that's the thing. When you're in tech and you're going to act like that, I can make your phone never work again. Just remember that. Here you go. I don't know what happened, man. Here's your phone back. Yeah, you got a break now. Sorry.
I think most of the time I don't think they're thinking.
No, yeah, you're right. There's no thought involved.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of screaming matches, but I like more when people just reply with questions. Like, yeah, so I don't know, they drink the blood of the children. Okay, where do they get the babies? And then you just start asking questions. Just don't yell,
Yeah.
don't call them names. Just ask questions and see where the whole thing goes, and laugh at how quickly the whole thing just gets dismantled. Yeah, I don't know. I have so much anger from the moment I wake up. I just try to develop tricks throughout the day to not say the most horrible things constantly online. But it's a barrage of stupidity from the moment we get up now. And it takes a lot of deep breaths and reading good shit and smoking a joint under a tree and watching documentaries and listening to Charles Mingus and doing the type of things that you can get through your day.
Yeah, you're right, man. It's like you wake up and it's like you can avoid the news and you can check out, hey, you know what? I'm going to look at Bloody Disgusting. They're not going to have anything bad on there. And you're drinking your coffee and you're happy, man. You find out a movie's coming out that you heard about. And then they finally got an announcement date and everything like that. And you eat your breakfast and you get in your car and you go to work and you're still really happy. And then everything goes downhill as soon as you encounter another human being.
Yeah.
And it's like, I fucking should have just stayed home.
Yeah. I was slightly happier at home.
I was like, man, can I go back to where I was? Okay, yeah, no, I don't get no bennies. Okay, sorry.
Well, since we're talking about anger and injustice, that is a good segue to talk about your books. And I think we should talk, initially about The Devil Takes You Home. And I mean, you've got loss and heartbreak from page one, but I understand that this came from a real life event. So, I mean, let's talk a little bit through that.
The I was probably 15 or 20,000 words, I can't remember right now, into The Devil Takes You Home, and I moved to the US in 2008. Between 2008 and me writing this novel, I don't know, 2019, 2020, at least half of that time I'd been uninsured. Unemployed or underemployed or whatever. If I wasn't at UT Austin, because I had health coverage back then, it was mostly gigs that had no health coverage, um, which was kind of weird and scary in a certain way. Like I got bit by a spider and I had to buy antibiotics from a drug dealer because I couldn't afford them at the pharmacy. So it led to a couple of weird experiences. So I wanted to talk about those things, and I was going a little bit into how messed up the healthcare system does not work in this country. And in the middle of that, writing that novel, the pandemic hit. I lost my job at the school because they were not bringing the classes that I was teaching back online in August, which meant I got my last paycheck and I got my last month of health coverage, and then I was out of a job and not covered during the pandemic. And the fear and the anger and the why are we all going through this situation? And then always that gets you thinking of, if I have this situation, but I'm young and I can move around and I don't have diabetes, it's like, what happens to the people who can't do those things? What happens to people who can no longer work or who are physically not able to leave their homes and you're not covered? And where's the help? And, I was just very angry. And all of that went into the story. And after the main character loses his daughter, I think the healthcare system trying to get paid for the death of the daughter sort of becomes another invisible monster that kind of haunts the whole narrative from start to finish. Just because I was angry and I couldn't afford therapy, so that just went into the book.
Right. And I mean, from the start, like the protagonist, Mario, is doing so much to try and be a quote unquote good person and to do things the right way. He doesn't want to take these other avenues, but slowly we just see things getting more and more exhausted. And yeah, the injustice that you feel as kind of the reader, like it really carries through from the weight of the words. And I think it kind of brings to mind, the question that I would say is at the surface of all of your novels, all of your stories, perhaps of life in general. It's like, when does doing bad actions make you a bad person? What's the line between a bad person and bad actions? And if a good person is doing bad things for the right reasons, like that, the world is so morally gray.
Yeah, I think you just absolutely nailed it. I love to write about people doing the worst possible things for all the right reasons. We're all flawed and we're all violent in different ways or vengeful in in other ways, or you don't know how it's going to come out. You don't know when you're going to reach someone's breaking point, but everyone has one. So how desperate do you have to be to do that first thing that you thought you were never going to do? And then if that doesn't work, how desperate do you have to be to do the next thing that you told yourself that you were such a good person that you were never going to do this, but now maybe your life depends on it, or you cannot feed your children if you don't do that thing. So it's like when you're outside and you see those stories of someone who had a nice job and a nice car, and then they started gambling or they started drinking or they tried a little bit of cocaine, and then you see that stumble all the way down from afar. It looks very clear. It's like a clear cut, story that you've seen before. when stuff happens to you, you don't see it coming. You're like, it's one thing, and then it's another, and then you make a decision that you thought was right, and then what you did was just fucked it up severely, and now you have to make another decision, and then you're the one who's stumbling, but you don't see that. And I like to write about those characters. Go, we all stumble, and then it's like, what am I going to do now? And that decision says a lot about not necessarily you. It says a lot about you, but also about your circumstances. Like, if you had different set of circumstances, would you make the same decision? And playing with those characters is always a lot of fun.
I went through something like that years ago, where I had decided that I wanted to change careers. I didn't like what I was doing, and I ended up leaving that career. And I went through unemployment. I managed to get unemployment. I applied for it, and they granted it. And I had some money in savings, and I went through all of that. And I'm here to tell you that you can get up every morning and try to change your career. You can get up every morning. You can have all your applications out and everything like that. And you can do every single thing Monday through Friday at 7 a.m. and knock on people's doors at businesses. I need to talk to the manager. I'm trying to get a job and da-da-da-da-da. And you can do all that. And one day you're going to find yourself with an eviction notice in one hand and the people coming to get your truck on the phone on the other hand. Yeah. I think everybody is 72 hours away from a bad decision that could put you out in the fucking street.
Yes, sir.
And it's like, and trust me, it's because I was there, you know, and I had to make the hardest phone call ever in my life. And I didn't call mom. I called dad. So that's because that's how bad it was. And I was like, hey, I need help. And he's like, okay, so what's going on? And I explained it to him. And he said, I will help you, but you have to get a job. And I'm like, well, I've been trained. He goes, no, and I can appreciate that. He goes, but man, he goes, you need to go where you can get you a job tomorrow. He goes, and if that means selling cars again, then you start selling cars again.
Cars.
Yeah, because you can get a job selling cars as long as your driver's license is good. Yeah, you know, and that's what I did. But yeah, he had to bail me out, and I made a promise to myself that they were never going to bail me out again, and they haven't. So but yeah, I was within minutes of not having a place to live and not having a vehicle to drive. And if you don't have either one of those, pretty soon you ain't got a phone to use because you're out of money and then you're starving and you're out on the streets.
Yep.
And what would I have done? Turn to crime.
Once you're out, that's not the bottom. You still need money. You still want all those things back. You still want to get your phone and you want to, you know, maybe not spend the night out. If you can scrape together $60 for motel, that'd be fine, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you hit the bottom and then you keep digging. You're not done yet. So how do you get out? Imagine you call that
writing about criminals.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
They're desperate, unpredictable. And that's, I mean, yeah, you know it. I know it. Michael knows it because we all kind of blend the weird crime, as I call it. You know, I love criminals as protagonists because they'll fucking do anything. And they react to supernatural shit like really strangely. It's like, I shot it 6 times, you know, and it's like, it's still moving. Something's not right, you know. So that's some crazy shit. Yeah.
And of course, the other thing that we see is then the deeper Mario gets into this criminal world, the more he's sucked in again and again, and then, you know, as well with this question of morality, he starts justifying the things that he's doing. And he's like, well, these are terrible fucking people. There are injustices that are happening. They deserve to die or they deserve to suffer. And I mean, it's difficult to argue with the logic, but then it's like, well, should you be the one to be delivering that suffering? And kind of a personal question. Some people are probably like, no, but I don't know. It depends on the situation. And when he knows as well that he's going to rid the world of a monster and he's
Yeah.
going to benefit himself and thus help good people, God, it's then difficult to say that crime is the bad choice at that point.
It's again, it's those characters are the ones that I enjoy the most. Are you going to do the bad thing? Sure, but why? I think that's what makes them interesting, right? They're criminals, so we know they're probably going to take the wrong choice. But how interesting can you make the taking of that decision, the making of that decision, taking that route? How does that work? I started teaching romance when I started teaching creative writing at universities, and I had never been a fan of the genre. I understood how the formula worked, but I had to study it to understand, a little bit more, so I could help my students write better romance. And the formula goes, they can't be together, and then they have a happily ever after. You can change up a few things along the way. Make them both women, a guy and a ghost, whatever you want. But the point is, they all have the same formula. It triumphs or it fails based on how you complicate things. And in that way, I think a bunch of genres that we love, horror and crime and sci-fi, they tend to behave in the exact same way. It's like you kind of know that if you're watching a sci-fi movie about some folks stuck on an alien planet, it's not going to be a happy movie. Something is going to show up. There will be blood. You already know that, but you don't stop watching if the movie's good. Like, how many times can we have aliens and still make it good? That's what we know. The crime, we know pulling the trigger, we know demons and werewolves and haunted houses, we know all of it, but we can keep it fresh. Like, we can do new things with it. Let's play with form. Let's play with the way that we approach this thing. Breathe new air into it, and then we have what we have.
And I mean, talking about breathing new air into it and presenting things in a fresh way, I mean, on the surface and the way that a lot of your stories start, you could think, okay, you're going to get a straight crime novel, particularly House of Bone and Rain, I would say.
Yeah.
But then, you introduce the supernatural and you show these other more overt horror elements. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of when Chuck Palahniuk said that you can tell the truth through fiction better than you can through nonfiction. So I'm wondering if there's a little bit of that going on here. And at what point did you know that you wanted the supernatural and horror to become part of your crime stories? And was that always the way that you've done it?
I started. I think I fell in love. I know I fell in love with horror first. So I always thought I was going to be a horror writer. But then when I discovered crime, it was that revelation of, like, I'm kind of having the same feelings. I'm anxious. I'm excited. I'm laughing sometimes. There's a lot of blood and violence. Like, I like these two things just as much. And then it took me, maybe 20 years to figure out that I can write a horror story, I can write a crime story, or I can write a mix of both. And that's a lot of fun because you just pluck elements from each one of those genres, and then you do whatever the hell you want. There's like no rules. You like demons, you can give them guns. It's this idea of, like, just giving yourself permission to do stuff, which I think a lot of young writers, we just don't, because rules, the books that made you, how those work. So you're sort of tied to all those rules and regulations. And if you study writing, which thankfully I didn't, but if you study writing, then they're going to give you even more rules and regulations than the ones that you pick up from books. And then you're not willing to go to those places. And it's actually the opposite. Just go to those places. You want to make it horrific and very gory and also funny. Please do it. Go, give us that. Are you a super fan of what's the term now? Spicy novels, but you also love horror and you want to do spicy horror? Please do that. Do whatever makes you happy. Make it weird. Make it kinky. Make it political. Play with the genre. Have a lot of fun with it.
Have you found that since being picked up by Mulholland that you've had to be more concerned with genre, or has this ever come up in conversations? Have they wanted to know, like, look, are we marketing more crime or are we marketing more horror? What are we doing? Where are we putting this book?
Mulholland is very weird because they have certain books that I would call horror, but they're a crime imprint. Um, I think they've done this combination of not telling people what it is, uh, calling it a dark thriller, but then being very clear about we call them dark thrillers or whatever, but it's from the guy that writes horror. So whatever the marketing team has been doing so far, I think it works. They might mention the surreal elements as being more literary, depending on where they're pitching the book. Um, so I think they've done a good job of we signed the weird guy, and every novel is going to be a weird mix, and we don't know what it is. But it'll be dark and hopefully thrilling. So it'll be a dark thriller, and yeah, and then I don't have to worry about genre at any point in time. I don't think about genre when I'm writing. I don't think about genre when I'm editing. I often think about it when people ask, or when I start thinking about marketing, because then if you do the wrong kind of marketing, like I picked, the publishing is very, very, very slow. So I picked the title for House of Bone and Rain before everything was House of blah blah and blah yeah. It was before that. So then I got caught up in that thing, and you're like, hey, listen, it's not, there's no dragon fucking. This is not that book. Don't pick it up because you think it's one of those houses and then find underwater monsters. Don't get mad at me. So it's always a challenge. They call it one thing. The horror community knows what it is. I'm always calling it Barrio Noir because it's easier to not have to explain it. Yeah, genre is just funny like that. Never think about it until it's done, and then you obsess about it for a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear because I remember, back in the day when your first two books were with Broken River Books, I would think of them as more a kind of, I guess, like transgressive and kind of between the margins. They certainly liked crime, but they were always reluctant to kind of say, like, oh, this is crime. It was Barrio Noir, was essentially the label. But then now you've gone to Mulholland, and every time they've sent me an email, my impression is they're marketing you more as a horror writer. So actually, when I picked up House of Bone and Rain, I wondered if it was going to be more overtly horror. Okay, Gabino shifted. Well, actually, you're kind of doing the same thing that you've always been doing, but then the bit of fuckery with Mulholland is, but you're a crime imprint, but then you're marketing him as horror, and
Yeah,
I didn't know what to expect, but I was not disappointed because it was kind of business as usual, but taken to another level. Like there's certainly been a progression in terms of what you're doing.
I think it was the first novel, not short story, but the first novel that started, and I had maybe 10,000 words, and I was convinced it was probably going to. I was convinced that I could force it to be a crime, period, a crime novel. I was like, the whole thing started with me thinking, if this event, the shooting of the mother that happens at the beginning of House of Bone Rain happened to me and my friends, if we had an opportunity to quote unquote make things right, let me tell that story. And as soon as I hit how do I help these kids? Because they are kids. They're not men. They're not bad men. They're kids. How do I help them get this done? And then immediately it was like, you have to talk about storms, which will give you an opportunity to talk about colonialism, but also, hey, storms are weird, and the Taínos have huracan. And immediately it was like, no, you can't do straight crime because you want to do all those things, and you want to be having monster babies in the middle of the storm because that's how you have your fun writing. So it for about 10,000 words, it was 100% a crime novel, and then it just went downhill and the other mayhem began.
Thank you so much for listening to This Is Horror Podcast with Gabino Iglesias. Join us again next time for the second and final part of the conversation with Gabino. But if you would like to get that and every other episode ahead of the crowd, become our patron at patreon.com/This Is Horror. Not only do you get early bird access to each and every episode, but you can submit questions to the interviewee. And coming up soon, we will be talking to Joe Hill, and then we will be kicking off next year with a returning appearance from Dean Koontz. So if that sounds good, and you want to support all that we do at This Is Horror, become our patron at patreon.com/This Is Horror. Okay, before I wrap up, a quick advert break.
From the host of This Is Horror podcast comes a dark thriller of obsession, paranoia, and voyeurism. After relocating to a small coastal town, Brian discovers a hole that gazes into his neighbor's bedroom. Every night she dances and he peeps. Same song, same time, same wild and mesmerizing dance. But soon Brian suspects he's not the only one watching, and she's not the only one being watched. They're Watching is The Wicker Man meets Body Double with a splash of Suspiria. They're Watching by Michael David Wilson and Bob Pastorella is available from thisishorror.co.uk, Amazon, and wherever good books are sold.
It was as if the video had unzipped my skin, slunk inside my tapered flesh, and become one with me.
From the creator of This Is Horror comes a new nightmare for the digital age, The Girl in the Video by Michael David Wilson. After a teacher receives a weirdly arousing video, his life descends into paranoia and obsession. More videos follow, each containing information no stranger could possibly know. But who's sending them, and what do they want? The answers may destroy everything and everyone he loves. The Girl in the Video is The Ring meets Fatal Attraction for the iPhone generation. Available now in paperback, ebook, and audio.
Well, that about does it for another episode of This Is Horror. And my final ask of you is that if you have a guest that you would like to see on This Is Horror podcast, or you have a short story or film that you would like to hear myself and Bob Pastorella analyze and unbox on Story Unboxed, the horror podcast on the craft of writing, send me an email, michael@thisishorror.co.uk. Let me know who you want to hear us talk to, and let me know what you would like to hear on Story Unboxed. So, until next time, for part 2 with Gabino Iglesias, take care of yourselves, be good to one another, read horror, keep on writing, and have a great, great day.
This is Horror Podcast.